fans, welcome back to Player Display for another custom showcase. I feel like it's been a very long time since we've done one of these, but we recently reviewed the single-release McFarlane Michael Keaton Batman from Batman 89, and as I mentioned in that video, I was sorely disappointed with that figure for a number of reasons, but that being said, I just had him floating around my room, not even floating around, just sitting there on a box, and I had an idea of what to do with him. I was looking through shots of the unused suits in the Flash movie, in that one scene where Batman opens the suit gallery, he has a whole bunch of these Easter egg suits sitting there, and I took influence from his blue and gray suit and his Year 2 suit to make a Michael Keaton-inspired Year 2 costume, influenced by the film and also its respective comic influences. So, this took me 6 hours to make. I don't know why it took so long. I think it's because I was doing everything with acrylics. There's no spray paint here at all, except for finisher, so like matte coat and gloss coat. But all the color done here is like layer upon layer of paint. So I do a layer of like gray on the arm, I do on the torso, I do on the leg. I just keep repeating that cycle as it slowly like dries off. Then I add more on top of that. So the paint's really caked onto this guy. After that, I did a whole lot of, as I said, matte coating, gloss coating, stuff like that. Glued it all together, and this is the end result. It's also worth mentioning that I took this guy apart completely, so I popped off the arms, took out the butterfly discs, popped apart the legs. I took everything apart and painted every single piece individually, and that's what really makes a difference when customizing McFarlane figures, just to look at every single piece, take care of it on its own, and just put it all together, and this is what you'll have. So let's go from head to toe, because there's a lot of story going on here. It's not just a repaint. There was a lot of retooling that went into this guy as well. So here we have the head sculpt, and this is actually, believe it or not, the default head sculpt that came with the original Batman figure. What is the difference, though? It is the mouth. For those of you who are familiar with this channel, you know that I have a third-party head sculpt that goes on my definitive 89 Keaton, which is right over here. Unfortunately, he suffered a tumble, so one of his ears chipped off, so I had to makeshift an extra little corner there. I'm still gonna workshop that. I need to sand it down a bit. But this guy has interchangeable faceplates. So he has this one with a grin, then there's one that's more stern and default, I guess. Then there was one with more of a pouty lip look, I suppose you could call it, and I wasn't using it for that Keaton at all. So what I did is I took a knife to this guy's face, cut it off, Joker style, and then I slid one of the plates in, and just under that, to complete the whole image, I used a little bit of Mono Magic clay to create that chin portion. Glued it in, let it dry for a little bit, then painted over it. Now it looks like it's part of the full cowl. Then once I painted the whole mask, I slid the face back in there, and now we got a whole new mouth. To give you an idea of the difference, here's the original mouth, and you can see what a difference that is. I don't know who this dude is, but this looks more like Keaton than this thing over here. So, I have no use for this anymore. I'll probably just chuck it. I just wanted to bring it in for demonstrative reasons, but I guess that only goes to show you, if you really want to change the face of the Batman, you just need to cut up the mouth and then slot another one in there, then just figure out a jaw replacement, and you're fine. But otherwise, as you can see here, the head and the rest of the cowl that branches down here over the shoulders, these were done in blue, but also with matte, as opposed to the gloves, the underwear, and the boots, which are done in gloss. That is more to be in reference with the Flash suit that we saw in his suit gallery, or room, or whatever you want to call it. Moving on down, you'll notice I have taken some creative liberties here. Obviously, I got the full bodysuit done in a matte gray. I think it looks really great. There's a little bit of chipping in there. That's natural, but nothing that can't be fixed, so I'm not too worried about that. Now, the one crazy thing you're seeing here is a gun holster, and that was a last-minute touch I wanted to do. I realized it's kind of just a repainted Batman. That's a little boring. I wanted to have a little more purpose than that. So what I wound up doing is giving him a gun in a holster and slinging that around. So this is made from a corner of a calendar from my office, and the loop that goes around his shoulder is actually from Ray's staff from Star Wars The Black Series. So Why does Batman have a frickin' gun? That's because this suit is not just inspired by one suit from the Flash gallery, but two. There's one that was done in the blue and gray, which is predominantly what inspired this figure, but then there was another, like year two inspired one that had two gun holsters off to his sides. That confirms that at some point in Michael Keaton Batman's history, he used firearms. And we've seen it in the movie, like, whether you like it or not, he kills people. So I'm not opposed to the idea of him having a firearm at one point or another. So as for the gun itself, this actually came from one of the McFarlane accessory packs. I think this was from the first version. I don't remember for sure though. But yeah, it slides in and out, no problem. And he is able to hold it because I did give this guy alternate hands as well. So we will look at that a little bit later. Other thing we're talking about is the cape, which I did completely on my own. I did from an old shirt. I actually used the cape that came on this Batman originally as a stencil for this cape, so it is exactly the same shape, exactly the same proportions, with the arcs down here. The big difference, of course, being it has a wiring, and also it doesn't have the friggin' pockets in there, so we don't have to worry about that aesthetic abomination anymore, which is fantastic. And if you're wondering how do you get the cape underneath the cowl of a Keaton Batman, if you're so inclined as to replace it with a wired counterpart, it's very difficult. What you need to do, I've done this twice before, so I think I could speak to it. First, you gotta warm up the head and the cowl with hot water. I microwave a cup of hot water for like a minute, then I pull it out. Leave this in here for a minute, then I pull it out. Then what you want to do, I'm not going to do it here because everything is nicely painted now. You want to peel this corner up, get a knife, and you'll see there's an interior neck inside of the cowl, and you want to cut that off. So you're basically decapitating Batman. So that's going to come off. There's also a little bit of a clip portion here that clips just over the Bat logo, and that clips in there, but you can just pull that right out. So after you do that, you can make whatever cape you want or get one from third party, slide it in there, and then glue this entire rig on top of him. And that being said, one thing I forgot to mention is another thing I did with the head to make it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. There is no joint in here at all. I removed the dumbbell joint and I sat the head lower on the neck and I glued it. Why did I glue it? Because this version of Batman, his head's not supposed to move. So it looks more streamlined and it's totally locked in place. There's no swivel, there's no up and down, no nothing. Even my other Keaton Batman over there, his head can move, I just don't move it. But here, totally frozen, the way it should be. So loving that a lot. Now, down here, we could see some other repainting choices. So I repainted the gauntlets with the blue. It was really hard to get the blue on there, so I kind of did a stippling. So that's why it's got a little bit of that rugged texture, but I don't mind it. I think it looks pretty neat. Actually, the process of how I did the matte gray, then the glossy blue, is I painted the gray first, then I put masking tape over the things that I wanted blue, then I dull-coated the gray portions, removed the tape on what I wanted to be blue, put masking tape over the gray portions, then I painted on the blue, then sprayed it with the gloss, then removed the tape. That's how I'm able to have not only two different colors, but two different tones, the matte and the gloss. So if you were wondering how I step that process out, that's how it went. And that's why this guy took such a long time to do on a Friday evening. It's Saturday morning now, but before I crash, I just wanted to show this guy off. Another thing I did here, this is the last thing I did that isn't just simply a repaint. I kept Ash's belt as well. The clip is from the 89 Batman, but the rest of the belt, I think, is actually fodder from the DC versus Vampires Batman. And we did a whole custom showcase on him way back if you want to check that out. But from that custom, I removed his belt completely. That was on another, like, soldier fodder figure for a while. I just took it off of him and dropped it on this guy. So, again, more accurate to the Flash film. Diapers are blue, as it should be, gray leggings, and also blue boots, similar style to what we have up here on the gloves. Now, last thing we can look at here are some accessories. So I actually carried on some hands I don't really need for the standard default 89 over here. because I figured, well, he's already got one gripping hand that can compensate my custom batarang and grapple hook, so I might as well just use the other hands he does not need and give them to this guy. So first thing we have here are two identical left and right grip hands. These were meant for the sort of baton things that carried up the pockets on that weird cape. Glad that's rid of. So I can actually use these to hold the shurikens, which were not used in either of Keaton's two movies. Well, not in Flash either, but I figured this is him during a different point in his life. I mean, it's confirmed that at some point he did wear gray and blue, so maybe during that period he was using the shurikens, so he could hold those now as well. And the hands are swappable, but these arms actually have a long history. The arms actually belonged to the six-pack Keaton, and I popped them off and swapped them with the other Keaton, so that way that one could have interchangeable hands. And then the six-pack arms went onto this Batman from the single release. I know, it's really confusing, but long story short, I had to cut down the discs on the pegs for the hands down there. So now the hands are interchangeable here. So I can remove the fists. The fists stay on better than anything else. I can pop that away. And then I can go ahead and show you his fifth hand over here, which is his wider gripping hand for that really excessively large grapple gun that he came with, which I no longer use. I cut that thing up, and I created a more small, compact version that was kit patched with the Flash grappling hook. But of course, instead of a grappling hook, this version of Batman is going to have a gun, because I can do that. So this actually fits in his hand beautifully. I did have to use an X-Acto knife to get that trigger finger working, but yeah, just pop that right in there, and he looks pretty lethal and a little bit hilarious too. But as I said, the fists stay on a lot better, but since I cut off that disc, the rest of the hands kind of just slide on. They don't really click on, which is okay. They still sound fine. Gravity will allow it, so not an issue there. Put that to his side. And I think that is it. That was the general process of how I put this guy together. And then you could see, yeah, the wired cape doing what it does. He can't swivel at all in the head, so you gotta move his torso, but I prefer that restriction, personally. Makes things more accurate to how he would be moving in the suit. I can't believe that the Flash movie had the gall to not only make a whole bunch of suits and not use them, but also give him a default black suit when they created all these other innovative live-action designs. And they could have just dropped him in one of these to make things more interesting, but I guess they had to keep it a little more familiar. They didn't want to get too comic booky, so I suppose I understand that. But anyways, that's pretty much it for this showcase. I just really wanted to, well, show this guy off. I thought he was a lot of fun. If you have any questions about the process, let me know. If there's anything that I could have done better with this figure, let me know that as well. Also, let me know how you feel about the gun. I just felt like, you know what, fuck it, let's just do it. Let's make something happen. I mean, the comics did it first, so you can't get mad at me. So here we are. But anyways, that's all. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you enjoyed them, please, as per usual, be sure to like,
comment, ring the bell to be notified of our latest arrivals, and subscribe.
This just goes to show you, when it comes to customizing, be sure to get a little bit nuts. Rock on, and I will see you all later.
Hey you! Yeah, you! Check out this other video you might like in our sister gaming channel. It would be real sweet if you did. Still waiting!